In Revenge of the Sith, we see Dooku get killed by Anakin Skywalker after he lost a duel. What if, instead of losing the duel, Dooku actually won and beat Anakin? In this video, I'll be exploring that very scenario. Anakin's lightsaber clanked on the floor as Dooku held his lightsaber firm over Anakin's tense shoulder.
It's over. It's time to end this circus,
He proclaimed as Anakin looked down in disbelief. He had lost all those battles and years of training, and he still couldn't beat Tyranid. Dooku began to move his red blade ever so slightly towards Anakin's face, and he began to feel its intense heat. He prepared himself for death, hoping Padme would be safe without him. Until Dooku suddenly stopped. He glanced at Anakin, wrestling whether to kill him or not. Anakin looked at him in disbelief. A Sith showing mercy? Keeping the lightsaber in place, he said,
Anakin, what if I were to tell you that Palpatine is the Sith Lord?
Palpatine looked at Dooku with a stern face, keeping his emotions within for the moment.
Impossible. The Chancellor is a good man,
Anakin said. A large burst of Sith lightning burst from the palms of Palpatine's hands, short-circuiting the wires keeping him in the chair. But before Dooku was given a chance to retaliate and send his own burst of lightning, Sidious sends a powerful wave of lightning into both him and Anakin. Seizing the opportunity, Sidious sprinted towards Anakin in Dooku's direction, slicing Obi-Wan's trapped body in half on the way there. But Dooku deflected Sidious's strike just in time to survive. As their blades clashed, Anakin began to recuperate himself, and after realizing Dooku was now busy with Sidious, he grabbed his lightsaber from the floor and swiftly joined in the fight against Sidious. At first, he considered killing Dooku, but at this moment, he hated Palpatine far more than he did Dooku. Dooku faced the brunt of Sidious's attacks while Anakin attempted to get Sidious off guard. Realizing he was outmatched, however, Sidious used all of his energy to send a ruthless wave of Force lightning to temporarily distract his opponents. Anakin and Dooku were stunned and disoriented for a moment. As they began to look around, they saw nothing. Sidious was gone. The Dark Lord of the Sith has fled.
Obi-Wan!
Anakin shouted as he only first saw what had become of Obi-Wan. He laid there still and devoid of life. Anakin began to feel rage build up inside him. He failed once again. All these battles, all his scars, all his tribulations were for nothing. Sidious was behind it all, and if he didn't kill him, he would never forgive himself. He even felt a sense of sadness in Dooku as he laid his eyes on what had become of Obi-Wan. Anakin ignited his saber and pointed it at Dooku.
In the name of the Jedi Order, you are under arrest.
Dooku looked at Anakin, emotionless, almost as if he saw it coming.
The Jedi Order, The same order that let a Sith Lord rule the Republic. The same order that has despised and resented you ever since you stepped foot in the temple. The same order that will not do what must be done. Join me, and I will help you kill the Sith Lord.
Anakin thought about it for a second, and Dooku was right. There was no chance the Jedi would send him to kill Palpatine, knowing of his rage and impulsiveness. He wasn't even sure if the Jedi would commit to killing Sidious. They might even let that monster live. He was left with no choice. Dooku was his only chance of killing Sidious. Dooku was his only hope to avenge Obi-Wan, and all those who have fallen because of Palpatine.
What's our move?
Anakin questioned as he rubs his chin, dwelling on what they needed to do. Dooku walked slowly in paces around a small, darkly lit room. They had picked it not for its luxury, but for its clear signs of abandonment. Dooku abruptly stopped and spoke.
We must investigate the Chancellor's office. There, we may find answers to his whereabouts.
But there's bound to be security there. Maybe even Jedi, especially after the Chancellor's disappearance.
Anakin protested. Dooku gave Anakin a blank and stern look, and candidly declared,
Then we must face them.
Anakin began to hear faint cries and voices. They began to get louder and louder, until he recognized who it was. It was Padme. But there was another voice, a laughter even. It was Sidious. It had to be. He suddenly jumped out of the metal floor he was sleeping on. He thought about the Tuskens back on Tatooine brutally torturing his late mother. He wouldn't let anything happen to Padme. not again. Dooku and Anakin went from corridor to corridor inside the Galactic Senate building, being careful to avoid suspicion from any of the guards. Anakin only managed to get in with a security card, but the Jedi would soon investigate, since he is technically pronounced dead along with Palpatine. They neared the Chancellor's office when a few Senate guards went by patrolling. They stood there behind the walls, ready to fight, but the guards didn't notice. As they went inside, however, they saw a familiar face. Mace Windu. "Skywalker, back from the dead, huh?" Windu said as he planted himself behind the Chancellor's chair, gripping his lightsaber. Even now, he still gave Anakin the same look, the look of disappointment, the look of resentment, the look of envy.
Master Windu, I would advise you to leave this room before things get out of hand.
Dooku stated in a surprisingly casual manner. Suddenly, Windu's lightsaber burst with amethyst light. He then pointed it at Dooku and stared blankly in his direction. "You are under arrest, Dooku, and so are you, young Skywalker."
I have no time for this.
Anakin shouted as he leapt across Dooku to clash blade with Windu. He wasn't going to waste his time with Windu when Padme could be in danger. He traded blows with Windu as Dooku looked on. Windu initially was forced into the defense, but as Anakin's anger grew, Windu got more and more powerful. Windu's unique ability to feed into an opponent's anger especially performed well against an enraged Anakin. Windu began pummeling in Anakin's defense. And as he was about to detect a fatal shatter point in Anakin's defense, Dooku attacked him from behind. Anakin, tired and knowing he was the worst person to be fighting Dooku, only tried to get opportunistic strikes, while Dooku mainly faced off with Windu. But slowly, Dooku and Anakin managed to chip away at Windu's defense. Windu began offensively striking at Dooku's saber, but with the twitch of a hand, Sith lightning crackled from his hands. Windu swiftly lifted his saber to successfully block the barrage of lightning. But as he blocked Dooku's lightning, Anakin slashed his lightsaber down into Windu's hands. Windu looked at his now dismembered hands with shock. But right as Dooku was about to execute the Jedi Master, Anakin force-pushed Windu out of the way of Dooku's blade.
There will be no unnecessary killing,
Anakin said, while looking at his saber and contemplating what he had just done. There was no going back. The Jedi would never accept any reason he gave. He looked around for anything that would indicate the Chancellor's location, but everything was gone. The Jedi had ransacked the office. Anything that would have been use to them was gone. But he heard his comms lighting up. He'd received a message. He grabbed it out of his robes and opened it. Palpatine. Dooku and Anakin landed each of their ships on the landing pad where Sidious arranged a meeting. Dooku knew it was certain to be a trap, but he wouldn't find out by standing around. The building was located in the industrial sector of Coruscant. It was the same place where Dooku met Sidious after the Battle of Geonosis. Those were different times, he thought. It was different from when Dooku was last here. Darker, unkept, and he felt a darker aura in the air. They went inside the palace, their lightsabers the only source of light available in the darkness. With the maximum speed he could muster, Anakin sprinted towards the voice, while Dooku followed suit. As he sprinted, he began to see a light growing brighter and brighter, until he saw what it was. It was Sidious's crimson blade, placed near Padme's head. Padme was restricted to a chair, visibly shocked and terrified. Anakin felt something he hadn't felt since that fateful day on Tatooine, since his mother was killed. He charged at Palpatine, blade at his side, rage powering his every movement. He fought with a ferocity he's never fought with before. But still, Sidious kept up and flawlessly maneuvered around his brutish slashes. Dooku, on the other hand, just arrived to join the battle. The sound of lightsabers rattling filled the room as Padme looked on with horror, anticipating the worst. When suddenly, Sidious sends a force wave in Anakin's direction, knocking him off balance and against the cold concrete walls. Dooku kept on dueling with Sidious. All Padme could see was a spectacle of lights flickering as they moved so swiftly, while Sidious attempted to overpower and catch Dooku off guard. Dooku was meticulously looking for weakness in Sidious's form, weaknesses that didn't seem to exist. However, Dooku began to notice Sidious shifting back towards his original position, towards Padme. and with a quick twitch of a hand, he attempted to stab Padme right in front of Dooku. But to Padme's surprise, Dooku had blocked the attack. Not only had he blocked the attack, he has also put himself at risk by doing so. In spite of Dooku's attempts at defense, Sidious instantly grabbed his second saber hidden in his sleeves, ignited, and sliced through Dooku's hands. He promptly looked at Padme and stabbed her. But the distance between Padme and Sidious prevented Sidious from completely stabbing through Padme's abdomen, but it was bound to be fatal nonetheless. Anakin looked on with horror as he garnered his strength and used Force speed to decapitate the Sith Lord. As Palpatine's head dropped onto the floor, Anakin embraced Padme and began frantically attempting to put pressure on her wound. Dooku looked on, almost feeling a sense of pity for Anakin.
I need to save her,
Anakin stated, while attempting to comfort his dying wife.
There might be a way, but we can only achieve it if we work together.
Dooku assured him.
I will do anything to save her,
Anakin professed before curling his fists with pure rage.